Sorry about this. Okay, now we're going live. All right, I believe we are live right now. If there's anyone in the chat section, please let me know. Okay, yeah, we're good. Okay, so today I have with me a special guest, Jake from SouledHumans. He has a YouTube channel that goes over the reincarnation soul trap, ideas of how to escape it. After my one interview with Howdy Mikowski, a bunch of people were asking me, like, you talk a lot about this idea of the cave and the soul trap, but you don't give any examples of like how to escape and what are some steps we can take. Well, we're going to solve that today. We're going to at least talk about it today and see what we can come up with. That's why I brought in Jake here, who spends a lot of time thinking about this very subject. So without further ado, Jake, welcome. And yeah, give us just a basic overview of like what you do and post about on your channel.
Yeah, thanks a lot, buddy. So basically, my main goal of the channel is to get a comprehensive view of the soul trap and how to escape it. So I want someone that watches my videos to have all the knowledge they'll need to actually leave this matrix. And in that spirit, I have a 27-minute long video about it's called Step-by-Step Guide to Escaping the Soul Trap. So basically, it just goes through all the steps and all the different like informational stuff that you need. For example, the understanding of how consent works, how your creator being powers work, and all that kind of stuff, with like video footage from movies as well, just to like make it really easy to understand. So it's basically just a comprehensive guide of it. And at the end of the video, I also have a comment section from the vegan skeptic. And he basically goes through the ideas of God mode and lucid dreaming and astral projection, which I think is a really good add-on to this idea of how to escape, because it basically practices you for the escape part. Because during lucid dreaming and astral projection, you get to practice your creator being powers and the environment you're actually going to be in when you're leaving this matrix. Plus, his ideas about the God mode and staying lucid during dreams and as you're leaving this place is pretty cool ideas, and I think that's a very good extra step to take for like extra security and all that kind of stuff.
See, I like what you said there with God mode, because I had this idea yesterday where like if you're on the other side, maybe it's possible that you're just kind of like floating in space and it's like up to you to figure out your next move. And if you're like in this astral realm, you could be like, all right, I'm going to create a world for me to ground in. So I'm not just like floating in space right now. So I can like figure out what's going on. Is that what God mode means? Because I've never heard of this. Like, what is that?
The God mode thing is a term that the vegan skeptic and his friend came up with. Basically, it describes your innate abilities, your innate being, basically. So once you go into like a deep meditation state during astral projection and lucid dreaming, you kind of realize that you have a lot of power and your awareness of things become a lot higher. So for example, right now, we're about a 10 out of 10 lucid state right now. But when you do these kind of like meditation things, you can get to like 15 out of 10 and so on. So it's a way to achieve a higher state of being, basically, like you're releasing your own potential while doing this. And I think that's a pretty cool practice tool, and also potentially important as well, because being lucid upon death could be a very important part to leaving this place. I don't think this is a required reading, basically, but I do think it's a very good thing to do. And for extra security, plus lucid dreaming, astral projection is pretty fun when you get into it, because you can basically do whatever you want. You can fly and all that kind of stuff when you're dreaming. So I think even if just for fun, everyone should check that out. And all that information is in the description and the pinned comment. If you just read that through at my escape guide video, you'll find that information.
Cool. Yeah. Is astral projection something that you've become proficient at? Is that something you're good at now?
No, I've never done that before, but I do want to achieve it. But the vegan skeptic, he has a lot of experience with that, so I've gotten some information from him, although I am not an expert yet.
Yeah, it's definitely tricky. I mean, I sometimes have enough issue falling asleep as is, let alone like controlling my astral projection. What are some like TV shows or movies that you've seen that kind of like is a metaphor for the ideas that we're talking about when it comes to Gnosticism?
Well, I could mention the movie that was my first experience about the Soul Trap before I knew anything about the Soul Trap. This is over a decade ago that I watched this, and that is the movie Vanilla Sky. So basically, Vanilla Sky is about a guy who gets trapped in a dream world, which turns into a nightmare later on. And in order to escape this world, he has to figure out that he's actually stuck in a nightmare world. And at the end of the movie, he basically jumps off a cliff to like wake up, so to speak. So it's kind of a metaphor for putting your intent into leaving the matrix, so to speak. And I never understood why this movie spoke to me so much, but now that I've learned about the Soul Trap, I completely understand why. So I am guessing that at a spiritual level, I have some kind of like residual memory, basically, that allows my spirit to understand the connection between it, even though I don't have any memories of it, kind of like a recognition of things.
Yeah,
I think that is a pretty cool experience to learn about that kind of stuff later on.
right. Like, I remember being in third grade and I told the teachers, like, I actually believe in reincarnation and not like the idea of Christianity, heaven and hell. Like I had that thought in my head, even as a child, when I wasn't introduced to like Hinduism or anything like that. I was brought up Methodist. So it's definitely for me too been an innate knowing I've seemed to always sort of believe. And have you ever watched the show Samurai Jack?
No, unfortunately not. I'm
Yeah,
not
it's like,
American.
well, just speaking of like Gnostic TV shows, that was like my favorite show as a kid. Like 90s kids will remember that. And I'm looking back at it now and I'm like, wow, that was sort of like a Gnostic allegory where the main character is a samurai who's fighting this being named Aku. And Aku literally looks like the demiurge. And Aku is like ruling his realm. And he sends Samurai Jack into a dystopian future. And in this dystopian future, there's a bunch of like robotic transhumanist beings that are like Aku's minions, which to me represent the Archons. And then Jack is there, and the whole time he's fighting the Archons, trying to return home. And it's like home to me, maybe that represented like the pleroma. And like that's the journey that like maybe we all go through. And it's like, am I just over analyzing everything now with my new perspective? Or are there a lot of Gnostic allegories that, I just didn't really see before? Is that something you think about too?
Oh yeah, it's there's a crap load of different like analogies and just straight up information in movies and TV shows. It's I could mention just on top of my head, like for example, Nightmare on Elm Street. That movie is all about the consent form of fear. So when Freddy tries to kill someone, he never does it straight away. He always frightens the person before he does it. Because as a creator being, you need consent in order to affect us, at least from my perspective, when I analyze how this reality works. And so in order for Freddy to kill anybody, he first has to make them scared about him, because it's kind of like, if you're afraid of the dark, then that is in a way a mental consent that there's something in the dark that can affect you, because otherwise why would you be afraid of it?
Yeah, I've never seen that whole movie, but let me guess, they can defeat Freddy by showing that they're not scared, right?
Yeah, at the end of the first movie, the main character literally revokes her attention to him, just like, you don't exist to me anymore, and the guy just fades away.
Yeah.
So yeah, like it really shows how powerful we are. Like literally, if we just revoke our consent and stay conscious of what we're doing and our minds, then the Matrix has nothing on us. And you can see that across different movies. Like for example, the It movie. Like as they're kids, the It creature has a lot of power over the kids. But after like towards the end of the movie, they're all adults and they don't have that fear anymore. So they literally just rip the heart out of the It creature at the end of the movie. It literally has no power at all against them once they're not afraid of it anymore.
Yeah, that's another great example. I really like that movie. I've been watching a new TV show called 1899 on Netflix, where it's honestly not a good TV show. I mean, it goes into like simulation theory, and stuff, and it has a bunch of like pyramid symbolism and occult symbols on it. Like it shows the triangle alchemical symbol for like Earth or all over the show. And I'm just seeing this like real pattern with TV shows like that, like Severance also, and Westworld, where like all these shows are popping out of nowhere. Like The Good Place also is on Netflix, about people dying and going to this heaven realm. Have you noticed that there's just this influx of like these spiritual TV shows?
Yeah. I mean, it seems like there's a lot of those movies. There's a lot of old stuff as well, but especially nowadays, in like what you mentioned with The Good Place, that's another example of how they need our consent form. During the first season, nothing that the bad guys does to the characters is anything that they do not consent. So basically, at the end of the season, they even have a scene where like, I'm gonna wipe your memories and do this all over again, and the main character says, go ahead, do your best. And it's like, oh, okay, well, you just gave him consent to memory wipe you, good job. So like it's one of those trickery scenes, but then at the the later seasons they kind of break the consent rule because it's a TV show and it wouldn't work if they kept to the rule set. So that you kind of see that with the Freddy story as well. Like eventually you activating your powers doesn't work anymore against him, like in one of the movies where people manifest dream powers kind of like in lucid dreaming states. But it's like, if the movie was true to its own like original ideas, then literally they would just zap Freddy and he'd have no way to fight them at all. But
yeah, and I think you told me too that you're reading the Book of the Dead, or you stopped reading it. Have you found anything interesting in the Tibet, or what was it, the Egyptian Book of the Dead?
Yeah, I finished it today actually, because I wanted to be ready for this talk.
yeah. What did you find?
I would say that every single person that used those books probably failed in escaping the soul trap, because the book is basically set up like a trap. So for example, I don't know if you know about the scarab idea with the heart symbol. So basically they would put the scarab at the heart when they mummified people, and they would put a charm onto it, would basically make it so that if they lie to the judges, their heart wouldn't reveal their lies. So it's kind of like, have you ever cheated on someone? And they would say no. And so the scarab would protect them from the knowledge. But basically, so the person who dies goes through the judgment section and they start declaring their own innocent about different things in order to get into heaven. And then the scarab would do nothing because it's just, some fake story that the Matrix provided to the person. And so the judge would be like, actually, you did this. And the person would go, oh, shit, So basically, it's a giant, it's a trap moment, basically.
See, that's so cool that you said that, because I was thinking the same thing when I read that book. Like the part where it's like you have to weigh your soul, your heart, I mean, with a feather. And if your heart's heavier, then you're forced to be like swallowed by that monster. And it's like, this is just another guilt trap. Like we're sent forth to this council, and we're supposed to feel so bad about the sins we committed on earth, even though literally everyone commits sins. And then that's what they use to get us to be like, oh, you need to reincarnate to atone for this stuff. That's how I read it as well.
Yeah, and they literally provide the people with a get out of jail free card that isn't going to work. And the Matrix knows it's not going to work because the Matrix records everything, like we see in live reviews, like everything is recorded. So the judges can just say, actually, you did steal the grain from your neighbor. And the person would just freak out because, his place in heaven is going to be challenged. And then like the Matrix, all it has to do then is just say, hey, Mr. Egyptian priest, if you want to get another chance of getting into heaven, how about you live another lifetime on earth, but you're going to be a poor slave this time, or something. And the guy's going to be like, oh, please spare me, in whatever Egyptian accent that would be,
Right. But I found some similarities between the Tibetan Book of the Dead and the Egyptian Book of the Dead when it comes to like the nature of the realm that we're going to be thrusted into. They both say that there's like horrifying creatures there that we need to like deal with. But they then reiterate like they can't hurt you because you're not in a physical body. So make sure you're not afraid of them. Like in the Egyptian Book of the Dead, there's this one monster, it's called like He Who Dances in Blood. Like they're horrifying, like monsters. Do you remember a part like that?
I read a little. I mean, I watched a video where they basically summarize things, and I think I kind of forgot it during my reading of the book, but I remember it from that. And yeah, it's basically the old fear tactic. If you consent to your own fears, then that is a permission slip for something to affect you, basically, because you're manifesting the ability for something to affect you, because that's how powerful our creator being powers are. I can go into a little metaphor that I'd like to use basically to describe just how powerful our creator beings are of like just creating stuff. So basically, during near-death experiences, you know, like people will appear in whatever realm they're in when they die, and they will see a 360 vision around them. Like they can just observe everything at once. And so my question is, how are they even seeing anything, and how are they seeing in 360 vision? And the way I interpreted this is basically they're used to seeing things to get information. So when they appear in the afterlife, they try to look around because that's their natural instinct to do. That's what they're used to doing. And because they're not limited by the body and they want to see everything around them, now they have 360 vision. And these people don't realize that they're manifesting the ability to see in 360 because they don't understand what they're actually doing, because they're not aware of their own thought processes. That's how powerful our creator being powers are. So if you're not aware of what you're doing when you leave this place, you can manifest really bad stuff for yourself. So you need to be cognizant of what you're actually thinking and what you're doing when you leave this place, because your powers are so great. Like when you're manifesting things, it goes in an instant. Like as soon as you think, I want this, then that is going to happen. So it's like you see the light, you say, that feels really good, I want more, let's go there. And then an instant later, you're there. So it's really important that when we leave this place, we're really cognizant of our own thinking and that we stay focused on what we're actually doing, which is why we have to remove distractions as best we can, which is part of my step-by-step guide.
Yeah, you're almost making it seem like it's like controlling a trip, you know, like going to the other side. I was thinking that like something that would help me would be like, and I've heard this before, is play some sort of music if you're on your deathbed, or just like maybe some sort of like affirmations that like remind you of like who you are, because sound is the last thing that goes before you go to the other side. Like you can still hear things. That's the last thing that you can do. That's the last of your five senses that fail, is what I'm trying to say. So I think it's important to like be playing some like sort of playlist.
I think that's a pretty cool idea. I personally like to just remind myself of what my plan is over and over again during my life, and just have that as a very strong intention before I die. Like even before I die, I'm already having the intention of being shielded from like any interactions from any kind of creature or thing. So nothing is allowed to intervene when I die. So more than likely when I die, I'm just gonna be like in a basically a void-like experience with no like stimulants. That is what I'm guessing, because I'm already blocking out everything with my intention. And if that isn't the case for some reason, I will activate my intention in order to block everything out. So like me personally, I don't even want anything to play, even if that was my own thing. I just want a complete blackout and just do my own thing.
Yeah, it would probably help to like be in a flow state.
Say that I sticked around, maybe I decided to release a SOS call to all the other spirits in the Matrix, kind of like this is a soul trap emergency message, you know, like that might be a fun thing to do. But at the same time, if you stick around, that is a consent form to be inside of the Matrix. And, you know, when you're doing that and you want to observe things because you want to interact with stuff inside the Matrix, that is a form of consent to have the Matrix affect you in different ways, be it just informational or whatever. And that could, you know, lead to different things. So I prefer personally to just get the hell out as soon as I can.
Right. And you've seen the movie Inception, I'm sure, right?
Oh, yeah.
You know how they have like little totems to remind them of like that they're grounded.
Oh, yeah.
I'm thinking that maybe that's a truth drop. Like in the next realm, like we can create totems for ourselves to remind us of like where we come from. I'm just kind of trying to extrapolate on this idea. Is that something that you've thought of before?
I haven't thought of that idea personally. I think it's kind of cool, but I'm also kind of a bit worried about it because since everything is recorded, there's a good chance that even our memories are recorded. Like, oh, you thought of doing that bad thing during your life review or whatever. And so basically the Matrix would be able to copy your totem.
Maybe,
So,
but I mean, the Egyptians, they would leave totems for the dead as well. Be like, here is some trinket, some like amulet that you can bring with you into the spirit world. And they knew a lot about, I think, the afterlife. So just looking at Inception, that resonating with me, and then seeing what the Egyptians did, I think that there is like some truth behind that. Or maybe the totem isn't a physical object. It's like, it's a thought. It's a type of like knowing that you have.
yeah, it could be similar to the idea of when people practice lucid dreaming. They kind of like do practices, kind of like a awareness call every day. You know, it's like you're making dinner. Is this a dream? You know, you kind of like reminding yourself. So in a way, it could be like a reminder type of thing. Like if you imagine a totem or something while you're alive, and then you have that habit, you could imagine that while you're dying, basically, and then you would be reminded about what you need to do. So that is a way to do it as well. Me personally, my plan is basically to practice the astral projection, like what Vegan Skeptic talks about. And also just putting my strong intention into being completely lucid and executing my plan as quickly as possible once I die. So I don't want to rely on things that are outside of me, of myself. And I do think that manifestations about like physical objects, even if they're just represented as physical, you know, in the spiritual sense, those kind of things can be, you know, mimicked with, they can be messed with, that kind of stuff. I don't want to give the Matrix any way to do any kind of trickery against me. I want to make it as simple as possible and just shut out any possibility of being tricked at all, because I already know how to get out. So I don't want to overcomplicate things and like mess myself over with it, basically. That's just my view on it.
Yeah. What group of like ancients do you resonate with the most when it comes to this sort of philosophy of the afterworld? Like the Egyptians, the Vedics, like who is someone that you are interested in?
I guess if I had to pick a group, it would probably be the gnostics, because they recognize this world as an evil realm made by a really fucked up system. And I do quite like the theory about the AI kind of system, basically, because if I would theorize what I think this creation is actually is, I would think that it's probably a creator being such as ourselves that basically went douchebag mode and created this matrix trap for some reason. And then the way the matrix runs is basically on AI autopilot, kind of. Because when you look at how the matrix works and how the life reviews work and everything, it runs on autopilot, basically. So, and you could even see that like inside of the matrix, you can, for example, I made this metaphor with some people that I've spoken with, where basically the matrix has its own like base AI system. So when you walk in the street, you will see people walking on the streets. It's kind of like in a game, you know, like it will spawn in characters to walk around. And that's like the baseline systems with you can interact with. You could make friends with a random stranger and we would simulate a life script, you know, whatever for that AI character. And then on top of that, you also have the life agreement, you know, like life script that people agree to before coming here. And that is basically like a permission slip from the matrix to add on to things from the baseline matrix system. So if you agree to being crippled at the age of 5 or whatever, the matrix doesn't have to wait for a random car to accidentally hit you. It can just spawn in a car that will hit you. So it's kind of like a double layer AI system, kind of like how in computer games you have the baseline AIs, you know, with the characters that have their own AIs, which would be like the NPC people. And then you have the master AI, which controls the different AIs to do certain things.
Right. And that, you said it's just an AI program that just runs on its own. And that reminds me of what our founding fathers in the United States believed in, called deism, where they compared God to like a clockmaker that created this clock and then just kind of like let it go. And that's what I feel like as well as might be going on. And I've talked to Howdy Mikowski about this, how it's possible that there's a percentage of people here that are NPCs. Is that something that you agree with? And if so, like what percent do you think fall into that category?
A straight up guess, over 99% of people are NPC characters. That is just my firm belief about this subject. I think that the number of real people is minuscule compared to what the actual numbers of people in the simulation. It's you can kind of like recognize it in the sense of, if you take Forever Consciousness Research channel, that's like the biggest Soul Trap channel on YouTube, and he just hit 10K subscribers, and that's the biggest Soul Trap channel. So if you say that only 1 in 100 people that are sold, recognize the Soul Trap, and they subscribe to forever, and then you 100 times those numbers just to get the real numbers, it's still a minuscule number. So yeah, I don't think there's a lot of real people in this place, and even a lot of those subscribers, for all we know, could just be like a matrix number system. It's kind of like how you recognize the same comments from the same people on when I make YouTube videos. It's like, how do I know that all of my subscribers are actually real soul beings? So I can't know that. So
yeah, and I've had this thought lately, comparing this NPC theory to politics. If this is true, that the majority of humans on Earth are NPCs, then this whole idea of a liberal democracy is not the best way to form a system of government, because that means that you can just easily manipulate the majority of bots to just do whatever you want them to do. So if this is true, like, we need to strip that entire idea of a democracy and create something different in order to make a well-functioning society. Do you agree?
oh yeah, if we wanted to control this Earth, like politics wise, we would need to basically take full control and put a spirited being in charge of everything. Like, because otherwise we can see in the double systems that politics usually use, like left, right, and all that kind of stuff. It is just basically the AI systems doing their pre-scripted behavior. It's like, if you talk to a righty, you're not going to be able to convince him of anything lefty, and the same with a lefty. So yeah, it's an impossibility to change anything politically speaking, as long as the NPCs are voting. But I would also like to say that trying to change the political systems in the world is probably a waste of time anyways, because we're such a minority, and the power structure is so firm that like we would never be able to do anything about it. And for all we know, there's already agreements in our life scripts which prevents us from changing anything on those kind of scales.
Yeah, I also agree with you, but I feel like you can recognize that it's evil and maybe futile, but then do your part to fight back against it anyway, just for the sake of it. I think that that's okay, as long as you recognize what this place really is and you're not too emotionally attached to it while you're fighting it. Maybe that's naive, but it's like I feel like we live in an inverted world where it's like there's no issue with having an elite class, because I think some people have more awareness than others, and they should be making like the laws. But the issue is the elite class that we have in our society are evil. Like they lack spiritual awareness to the core. But there's no issue inherently with having an elite class, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I can see that. I think that in the true nature of things, like in true reality, there's no leaders or anything like that. It's kind of like how authority is a very big thing here, but it would be like a nothing burger in true reality because of the inversion principle. Because in our true states, nobody can actually force you to do anything. So in a sense, there is no authority. Like the only authority is yourself and whatever consent form you give to someone else.
Yeah, so anarchy would probably be the most ideal society.
Yeah, it's I mean, you literally can't hurt anyone else without their consent, so anarchy doesn't have any fundamental problems with it in the true reality of things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you think that it's like futile to even like look at politics if you're this aware of like spirituality?
I My viewpoint about this reality is that I try to ignore it as much as possible. I don't watch the news. I don't give a shit about what political party wins or anything. If you look at the mantra, like number system, everything with the movies and all those kind of things, you notice how everything in the Matrix is completely scripted. So like all the characters and their actors all have like different number symbols inside of their names that connects with the movies they're gonna play, what date the movie's gonna play on, and all that kind of stuff. So like everything in the Matrix is already scripted. Like everything the NPCs do is already like preset, and that's like from hundreds of years, in the past, it was already scripted. So I don't think there's any like perceivable way where we could ever like take control over the Matrix and change the laws or anything like that. And if by some miracle we would actually succeed in doing that, the Matrix would just like kill us off like they did with the Gnostics, and the Cathars, and all that kind of stuff. It would just wipe us out. It's like if everyone that was spirited and knowledgeable gathered in one place, I bet like a meteorite would just smash into us, just to stop the society from building.
Yeah. So then, but what would the answer be? Just to like allow tyranny to slowly sink in and just take over our lives because we're just finite spiritual beings and nothing actually matters in the physical? I don't know. I feel like that's what the system would want us to do. The system would want us to just like be people meditating and not wanting to like give it any form of resistance, right?
There's an old Chinese, I think, story about this kind of situation where a monk is just meditating in the temple and an army comes in and starts killing everyone. And then the general comes up to the meditating priest and it's like, yeah, I can kill you. Are you not afraid? And the monk is all like, like, whatever. I can't control this part. I can only control me. So he just keeps meditating. And I think that's a pretty cool story because when it comes down to it, nothing in this reality actually matters. Like once you leave this place, it doesn't matter if you were $100,000 in debt or if the wrong political leader is in charge or any of that. Like none of that has any meaning at all once you leave this place. And once you know how to get out of this place, nothing's going to be able to stop you from getting out of this place. And so it already doesn't matter because you're an eternal creator being power. Like you're literally a god being and you're playing a video game right now, which doesn't matter at all. So to me, we should just focus on helping our spirited family, basically, to like get the hell out of here, because that's the only thing of value that we can really do.
Yeah, I think that we need to decide for ourselves, like what God wants us to do. Like there's a lot of people that say, well, the only answer is to just like leave Babylon behind and start a homestead. But like they can't tell you that that's the truth. I can't tell you that. You have to figure out for yourself, like what you need to do, what your mission, I guess, is. Even if there is even a mission, if we're just memory wiped, who knows?
Yeah, I think we can make missions for ourselves, kind of like how I started a YouTube channel. That's kind of like the appointed mission that I put on myself, basically. It's once I die, that's it. I'm not gonna help anyone anymore. Like I'm not sticking around. So like that was my part. If I get hit by a car tomorrow, those were the videos you guys got. Like you're not getting anymore. So I think it's important to have the attitude of like no shit's given about this matrix because otherwise you build the like desires, attachments and all that kind of things, and you should try and be as detached from this reality as much as possible. And as messed up as it sounds, that includes the spirited beings who are still stuck here because you're not going to be able to help them once you're out of here. So basically, use the time you have during this lifetime to do as much good as you can, and that's it. Like you're not going to be able to do anymore, so leave those attachments behind. Like you can still care about people but not be attached to them, kind of like how you really like your car, but if the car broke down you'd be okay with it. So it does sound really messed up, but it is an important mindset to have. Like I care about all the spirited beings in this place, and like if anyone needs to talk to someone, they're free to contact me about that. But it's like once I'm done with this world, I'm not going to allow any attachments to keep me here because that is a really dangerous thing. It's I told this story to at least 2 people already where I compared sticking around to helping people kind of like the old Romeo and Juliet story, because in that story they both do the suicide thing in order to try and save each other, basically, for their love, and in the end it results with them both being unhappy. But if they just got out of their family drama, you know, like just stayed out of it and didn't do the suicide thing, then they could still be together. And that's kind of like just getting the hell out of the Matrix rather than just playing the Matrix games.
Yeah, let me I'm reading some of these comments here. Oh, nice. We got Legit Bat podcast. I just went on their show on Rockfin. Check that out. They're pretty awesome. They've interviewed people like David Icke and Sam Tripoli. Oh, cool. Inner Beauty just subscribed to you, Jake. So that's cool. We're getting some subscribers over to you.
Nice.
Yeah. Actor Lick said he's already subscribed to both of us. Sweet. Yeah, I think people are liking the conversation. I think you mentioned to me too that you want to make yourself available to anybody who wants to like talk to you further about this subject, right?
Yeah, if it's questions about the soul trap, like I've already had conversations where I try to help people understand the topic, those kind of things, and also for just like emotional support or whatever. So like I was in a depression state like a year ago after I realized what like I was in, you know, like the soul trap, and I realized how everyone around me is basically fake, and that got me kind of lonely. So I kind of want to make a support network, you know, so if anyone is in that kind of state, they're free to contact me, you know. I can spend a couple of hours talking to them, you know, every now and then or whatever, you know. Like
Yeah,
I just want to be available while I'm here to just do whatever I can to help my fellow like spirited family members.
yeah, I know you have a Discord server too, right?
Yeah, I do. It's it has a link to a waiting server on each of my videos, so they can just click on that, and then after a voice verification, I'll let them into the real channel. This is just to avoid trolls, basically, because we had a guy that did nothing but just call people pedophiles and shit. So,
Oh my God.
yeah. So I kind of want to make sure he doesn't get back in there. So yeah, that's
Trolls. Yeah.
yeah. And if someone's like mute or whatever, I'm sure we can figure out a way to like verify that you're not that guy, you know. So
Yeah.
even like people who can't speak.
Wait. Okay. So we got Patrick Rooney in the comments said, listen, none of us really know what happens. This soul trap matrix can make you very depressed. It's counterproductive. But that reminds me of that one quote saying like something like every philosopher like contemplates the fact that they're going to die one day. Like, do you feel like there is utility in talking about this subject, Jake?
Oh yeah, I'm actually looking forward to dying. Like instead of being depressed and wanting to die, I'm like looking forward to dying because I realized how sweet it's gonna be. Like once we're in our full state, you can literally do whatever you want. You could make an exact copy of this realm, but make it like better, you know, or make something completely different. So like I'm pretty excited about leaving this place, but I don't want to leave it, you know, before I can actually do some helpful stuff for people, because I recognize that if I just leave right away and don't help people escape, then that's kind of a bit of a dick move on my part, you know.
Yeah, I think that going over this subject alleviates fear, and wherever you can get rid of fear in your life, that's definitely a positive thing. Like, I think that because I've spent so much time looking into this, I'm not going to be as scared like when the time comes. Let's see. Frank Beltran just said, if you've looked at numerology, life purpose / missions, the idea of being here is to ascend spiritually. What do you think about that? What do you think about that?
I think all life lesson stories about this matrix are complete bullshit. This entire world is designed to punish you for doing good and reward you for doing evil. So, for example, if I take an hour out of my time to talk to someone, you know, to like give them emotional support, I lose an hour of my time. So I am literally being punished by 1 hour for doing the right thing. If I, you know, don't give a shit about the person and don't talk to them, then I am rewarded with an hour of free time, which, you know, I could watch a movie or something. Like I actually do like talking to spirited people, so don't feel like, you know, it would be a trouble to talk to me. I actually do enjoy it. So there's no problems with that. But I just wanted to make that example. Like this world will punish you for everything that you do that is good, and it will reward you for the evil. So there's no spiritual development in this world. It is literally teaching you to be evil.
Yeah, it's like you could say there's no mission here because we've been memory wiped, so we can't possibly know what our mission would be.
Yeah, but even if you just gave them the memory wipe, you know, you made no arguments against it, even though you really should. But still, this world teaches you evil. Like if you stand up for what is right, your colleagues are gonna scream at you, call you, I don't know, racist or a bigot or something, you know, because you didn't want to like accuse someone of something. I don't know, whatever societal craziness that's going on. So like literally the only life lesson you learn in the Matrix are negative ones. Like there's no building up of your spirit. Everything that I've learned that is like positive is stuff that I made an effort myself into learning. Like I kind of made a point of this in one of my earlier videos where I talked about the life lessons. I think I called the video Bad Lessons. And basically I said that my dad taught me how to make brown sauce and my mother taught me how to read, and that's about it. So yeah, this Matrix is pretty shitty as a school. It's basically the opposite of a school.
Yeah, and it seems like the power structure that is right now, it like made it seems like it's made a deal with the devil of this world, because it just keeps winning and winning. It's like every single battle, it's victorious, like more and more control. Like in the United States, for example, like Herschel Walker just recently lost, so the Democrats have full control of the Senate. And it's like the Democrats are being used right now for evil agendas. And like it seems like nothing is stopping them. It's like they made some sort of Faustian deal. Maybe I'm looking too deeply into it, but that's just what it feels like, that evil just wins here again and again.
Oh yeah, well, it's designed to be that way. Evil is rewarded and goodness is punished. So like the scales are always tipped towards evil. So like if you have a good person and an evil person fighting, the evil person always has the advantage. Mm-hmm. So like just by that, evil is going to win, you know, like it's just a matter of time.
But I have this like idea that since it is a Faustian deal, if they made some sort of deal with the devil here, like I think it's all going to crumble and fall apart the second like the liberal world order gets exactly what it wants. The second it has full surveillance, full control over humanity, I think it's all just going to crumble, like the Tower of Babel or like an ejaculation. It's going to be like really quick, right when they have it, and it'll just be done.
Yeah, that kind of goes in hand with how art is basically the truth giver and like the media is the liar. Because in art, you kind of like see the symbolism of what represents evil. And that is basically trickery, deceit, you know, all the kinds of negative things. And also weakness is combined with evil when it comes to like symbolism. And something you often see, for example, in Lord of the Rings, it's not the good that defeats the evil, but it's the ring itself that makes people, you know, desire it, which makes it fall into the lava, you know, to be destroyed. So like evil destroys itself. And that is a metaphor that we see across like all types of art throughout history. So I think that is a pretty like symbolic thing for like how evil is always going to destroy itself, kind of like how deluge mechanism where it tortures us, it helps us wake up to the insanity of the world, which eventually leads to our release from it because we realize what we're in. It's kind of like the evil by its own nature destroys itself eventually.
Yeah, that's how I feel too. So I know you've been watching like the Forever Consciousness Research channel. Do you also like listen to the Overwatch channel with Dan over there?
Yeah, I used to watch way more of him before I realized what Forever's channel, and then I watched a crap ton of his videos, just like going for walks or whatever, just listening over and over again. So I probably have, I don't know, 100 hours listening to that guy.
Yeah. Yeah. Did I see this right on your channel that like Dan from the Overwatch channel shouted you out?
Yeah, he did. And I got like 3 or 4 times as many subscribers after that, and then it just kept going.
Yeah,
that was
nice.
pretty cool.
Yeah, I like his channel a lot. Yeah. Is there any other like channels that are on your radar that you think are pretty good for people who are interested in this subject?
I would like to shout out Derek from Lion Sword. He has a pretty cool channel. It's one of my favorites to listen to. He also has a really good video that's called the Honesty Principle, which basically he goes through the idea of always being honest with yourself, which I think is a really important part for escaping this matrix. Because if you just say to yourself, I have no attachments, but it's just a lie, you're just saying it to yourself, you're not actually going to escape this place. Because the moment you die, you're going to have those attachments, and it doesn't matter if you're lying to yourself, you're still going to be affected by them. So I think that video is super important, and I think everyone should watch that video. It is Lion Sword, And the video is called The Honesty Principle. It's a really good video. I think everyone should watch that video.
Cool. Yeah, was there any other topics that you wanted to bring up?
About like the Book of the Dead, or just in general?
Yeah, in general, Book of the Dead, Gnosticism, all that.
Let's see here. I mentioned Vegan Skeptic with his ideas about the God mode and being lucid upon that, which is something everyone should check out on my escape guide video. You can find that at the description and the pinned comment. He also has a Reddit channel, which has all of those information. There's also posted comments that he's placed upon my Discord channel in the lucid dreaming part of a Discord channel, which people can check out for more information about that kind of stuff. Other than that, maybe we should go over the step-by-step guide to actually escaping. We don't have to like go through the whole video, but basically the general concept of it, so people have a
you made a video on that. Like, what is this step-by-step guide?
Yeah, so basically I noticed while watching Forever Consciousness channel that a lot of people were confused about how to actually leave this matrix. And basically Mark has a lot of information on it, and if you watch 50 of his videos, you're gonna get the general gist of it. But for new people, it's kind of hard to understand, because it kind of like in this video you get one part of it, in another video you get one part of it. So if you're new, you're not going to be able to get it really. So I made a 27-minute video with like the whole process and all the information. And the video basically goes through 4 different steps, which is like the whole kind of like general vibe of it. And I basically call it step 1 is the stealth shield. Step 2 is the stealth realm. Step 3 is going to stealth realm. And step 4 is basically doing research before you start interacting with anything in the real reality, so that you're ready for things before you mess yourself over and get trapped in another matrix or something.
What do you mean by stealth? What do you say? Stealth mode is the first step? What?
Stealth shield, and the second step is stealth realm.
What is stealth shield?
Yeah, okay, so basically Forever has the same kind of like idea. So basically he calls it a void-like realm. I call it a stealth realm, and he calls it shielded. I call it a stealth shield. Basically it's the exact same thing, but I add on the stealth part to it. So basically when you make a stealth shield, it's kind of like a protection charm kind of thing, similar to what the Egyptian things did in the Book of the Dead. So basically you put your pure intention into basically creating a shielded state of being, so that nothing can actually interact with you. So basically when you're dead, no like Archon is gonna pretend to be your mother, and interact with you, because it doesn't have the agreement to do so, because your stealth shield blocks it from interacting with you. So nothing can actually affect you or interact with you using this shield. It's like it's in isolation chamber, kind of like shielding. And also the stealth part is basically an add-on, which I don't know if the stealth part is actually going to work or not. Like if it doesn't, so what? But we might as well try and add it on. Basically, if we can avoid the matrix beings from knowing where we're at, basically that would be a plus. But otherwise it's the same thing as the Marks from Forever Consciousness research channel's idea. So basically they can't affect you, they can't interact with you, and they can't detect you basically. And now the detection part might not actually work, because the Akashic Records ID and how they record everything, as we see in live reviews. So that part might not work, but if it does, it's a good add-on to add on to it. So I add that onto my thing. And then after you create this basically state of being shielded, as Mark would call it, the next step is to create your own realm. Basically it's your own world, kind of like a Minecraft server. I bet a lot of people would understand what I mean by that. Basically you're the god of this creation. You're the only one that gets to go into it, interact with it, or affect it in any kind of way. And it also has the stealth property, so preferably nobody would actually be able to even detect this realm. And once you've created that, you go to step 3, where you basically use your focused intention to just go to that realm. And I think it's very important that we don't create portals or any kind of like stuff like that we go into it, because portals require a 3D space, because you need to place the portal in somewhere. And right now when you're dying, you're probably still in the matrix. Then you create a portal, the matrix maker is like, all right, let's create a portal in front of his portal, and then he, you know, steps into our portal and thinks it's his portal or something. So you want to avoid any kind of trickery simply by just going there with your pure intention. And I show a movie where it's called What Dreams May Come, which is basically an afterlife guide movie. It's really good. And basically in that movie, the way that they teleport to different places is basically by just closing their eyes and opening them. And just by that, they, you know, move from one place to another, which is a symbolic method of showing that they're putting their intention into doing something, because that's how powerful we are. Now, obviously, we don't need to actually close and open eyes, because in your true state, you don't actually have any eyes, you know, because your body is just a meat sack, you know, like a representation on the matrix. So that is not something you need to do. And now that you're in your own realm in the third step, basically you activate the fourth step, which is basically just taking your time. You don't want to start interacting with other creatures before you regain your essence. You understand what this like true reality actually is, what the dangers are, what the game rules are, because we obviously got trapped here before. So if we just get out of this matrix, start interacting with other beings, we could get trapped into another matrix. So it's important that we take a lot of time just to investigate what actually, you know, is the rules of true reality, so to speak. So it's a really simple step-by-step thing where it's create a stealth shield, create a stealth realm, go to your stealth realm, and then just investigate. So it's pretty simple, and I go through all of the different things that you need to think about, how your intention works, how fear can be a consent form for things to affect you, all like everything basically that you'll need to know. It's not everything you could know, but it is like the basics of everything that you will need to know in order to escape this place. It's like a comprehensive guide, but there's still stuff to learn basically afterwards.
Yeah, I really like what you just said, because I've had similar thoughts, but you articulated it very well. I wanted to go over a couple comments and questions in the comments section. My question, what if you are in a coma or dementia? Can you control your mind? My father suffers from dementia and he sees beings. He sees big insects, and I think it's real.
I have heard similar stories to this, and I don't have any experience from this. I can't really say, but from what I've heard, basically when people have, you know, schizophrenia and stuff like that, it is often a intention and consent form kind of like mix between things. So the matrix could be, you know, twisting your mind and showing you things that aren't actually there in order to mess with you for whatever reason. And from what I've heard, often just understanding what's going on and putting your consent form away, basically just making sure your intention is to not be messed with, that can sometimes help. But as I said, I don't have experience with that, so I can't really help with that.
Yeah, well, my grandma, she had dementia, and it really seemed like her spirit or soul like had left her body, and the physical entity we were interacting with was not actually her. So if you know someone suffering with dementia, just realize that they're going in and out of existence at that point. So their soul is like out in the astral realm dealing with their own stuff. They aren't exactly the person you're talking to. So I wouldn't be too concerned with them. I feel like their spirit does still have some autonomy outside of the physical body. Candidly was saying, heard that we emit a frequency when we transition that alerts them we've passed, so be ready. So yeah, that goes into your stealth shield idea. So that's smart. Sweaty Spaghetti says, I have died twice. It's nothing. It's not black. Use your eyes to look behind without turning your head. That's what nothing is. I think I see what you're saying. It's interesting you died twice, Sweaty. I didn't know that. Joshua Carpenter says, sounds like Hugh Jackman in The Fountain where he hung out by a tree. Have you seen that movie?
No, I haven't.
Neither have I. Gat says, he is also an NPC and vibrates on another frequency. Okay, Joshua asks, any thoughts on the pleroma, the alleged true reality we are meant to return to?
I do have my own theory of reality, which I will make a video about at some point in the near future, probably, where basically I just go through the whole, like, what I think reality actually is and how it functions. but I'm still formulating my ideas about it, so I don't really want to go too deep into that subject yet.
Yeah, and I think it's important, again, to differentiate that if you are praying or trying to connect to God, to make sure you're very specific about what God you're connecting to. Excuse me. Make sure that it's the good God of the pleroma that you're speaking to that's outside of this realm, and that you're not praying to the God of your realm, which is like the Prince of Darkness, in my opinion, basically. Let's see. Gat says, strange to say this from your father that he is an NPC. I think he's saying like, oh, if someone has dementia, they become an NPC. Huh, that's a tricky question. Do you think that if someone has dementia, they're essentially an NPC?
I can tell you a story about my first memory that would kind of like shed light on the possibility.
Yeah, what's that?
My first memory is of being aware that I'm basically inside of my house, and I walked into my living room. I saw a woman in front of me, and I called out her name, which was the name of my Earth Mother. Now, this was my first experience, and I was basically in a state of complete ignorance. Like, I walked through the hallway, but if you would have asked me what walking was, I wouldn't have been able to tell you. And I didn't know who this woman was. It was kind of like I looked at a car and I said car. So I think my body had knowledge, which I didn't. It's kind of like, yeah, I basically think that I was put into an NPC body that was like doing its own thing. And I had no memories, just memory wise, but the body still had its own like informational sources. So basically, I think that if someone is suffering from dementia, as you talked about like that, it is possible that their spirit is no longer inhabiting the body. And so the body is now running on NPC autopilot, basically.
That's cool, because I've heard a similar concept on the YouTube channel, Open Your Reality, where he talks about a soul swap, where like with some human beings, like at some point in their life, like their soul leaves and then a completely new soul enters their body. I don't know. That seems maybe a little out there for me, but I think that could be possible. Have you ever heard of that?
I haven't heard of that particularly, but I could totally see that happening. I mean, there's no guarantee that that person stays within their body like forever. Like, for all we know, a deep meditation could actually release you from the matrix, and then you would just turn into like an NPC character doing its thing. Like, there's no way for us to know that.
Yeah, so maybe some people are born as NPCs, but then they level up their consciousness throughout life. It's possible.
Yeah, kind of like how I basically got implanted into a body. Like, I bet that the body that I am inhabiting right now is just a regular NPC, you know, like before that moment.
Yeah. Well, yeah, this has been a really good conversation. We're at the 1 hour mark right here. Let's see, Jake, where can people find you?
They can find me at SouledHumans on YouTube. I'm gonna at some point make videos on Rumble, you know, Odyssey and all that kind of stuff. I've just been a little bit too lazy, but eventually they're gonna be there as well. My Discord channel can be found on all of my videos. Like, just check the description. So if they just type in SouledHumans on YouTube, they should see me at the top search bar.
All right. Well, yeah, we should do this again sometime.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, this has been a really good talk, and yeah, I appreciate the commenters and everybody. I think this has been great. So thanks for tuning in, everybody. Thanks again, Jake. I'll talk to you later.
Yeah. See ya.
Bye.